By the time Scarlett Hayes was dragged onto the rain-slick pier in Brooklyn, she understood the truth too late. Her ex had not only betrayed her heart, he had sold her life. Victor Kane, the polished executive everyone trusted, had chained her to the center of a trap meant for Roman Blackwell. Ethan stood nearby, trembling, not from guilt but from fear, ready to let Scarlett disappear if it meant saving himself. Then Roman arrived. No shouting, no panic, just black cars, hard-eyed men, and a silence that swallowed the dock whole. He exposed Victor's betrayal, crushed Ethan's last lie, and looked Scarlett dead in the eyes before choosing war over caution. But the moment that broke everyone was not the gunfire or the arrests. It was earlier that week, in the middle of a Manhattan gala, when Roman kissed Scarlett in front of Ethan and silently promised, "Let him see what he lost forever." Scarlett Hayes did not know that in 4 days, a man would try to trade her life for his own. She only knew the ballroom at the Plaza Hotel was too bright, too cold, and suddenly too small to breathe in. Crystal chandeliers burned above her. Champagne bubbles stung her nose. The string quartet kept playing as if Humiliation had a proper soundtrack. Scarlett stood near the donor table in a black satin gown, her posture perfect, her pulse wild. She had spent 12 hours saving this charity gala from disaster. 1 missing donor, 2 menu changes, a floral collapse in the West Salon. She fixed all of it. Then Ethan Cole walked in with Chloe Bennett on his arm. Her ex looked expensive, polished, untouchable. Chloe, wrapped in silver silk, already had her phone angled for content. Scarlett felt the first crack in her composure when Ethan smiled at her like she was a private joke. "There she is," he said, loud enough for nearby donors to hear. "The woman who confused access with belonging." A few people froze. No one interrupted. Scarlett's fingers tightened around her champagne flute. If she snapped here, she would lose everything. Her career, her reputation, the money her mother needed for medication. Ethan knew that. That was why he did it in public. Chloe laughed softly. "This is brutal," she whispered to her screen. Ethan stepped closer. "You were useful, Scarlett." "That's not the same as unforgettable." The words hit low and hard. Scarlett kept her spine straight. That was all she had left. Then the room changed. Conversations died. Heads turned. Even the air felt heavier. Roman Blackwell had entered the ballroom. He wore a black suit, a cold expression, and the kind of power that made wealthy men step aside without being asked. Ethan's face drained white, and Scarlett realized the most dangerous man in New York was walking straight toward her. Roman Blackwell did not hurry. He never needed to. The room made space for him before he reached the center of it, as if power had its own temperature, and everyone in the ballroom could feel the drop. Crystal light caught the sharp edge of his jaw, the black silk of his tie, the steel gray of his eyes. He looked like a man who could ruin lives without raising his voice. Scarlett forgot the champagne in her hand. Ethan did not. For one brief second, her ex tried to recover. Scarlett saw it happen in real time, the straightening shoulders, the smug little smile dragged back onto his face, the desperate effort to look unimpressed in front of Chloe, the donors, the cameras, the entire polished room. "Mr. Blackwell," Ethan said, forcing charm into a voice that had gone thin. "Didn't expect to see you here tonight." Roman stopped beside Scarlett, not in front of her, not behind her, beside her, like he had already chosen where he stood. His gaze moved once over Ethan, dismissive and cold. "Clearly," he said. The silence that followed was worse than an insult. Scarlett could hear the tiny sounds now: ice settling in glasses, fabric brushing marble, Chloe's manicured nail tapping nervously against her phone case. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed right. Roman finally turned to Scarlett. It was the first time she had ever been looked at that way by a man like him. Not hungrily, not curiously, not even gently. He looked at her as if he were reading damage, measuring it, memorizing who caused it. "Are you hurt?" he asked. The question hit harder than Ethan's cruelty. Scarlett swallowed. No. Roman's eyes held hers 1 second longer, as if deciding whether he believed her. Then he looked back at Ethan. "You wanted an audience," Roman said softly. "Now you have one." Chloe's smile faltered. Ethan let out a laugh that sounded brittle. "This is between me and my ex." Roman adjusted the cuff of his sleeve with slow precision. "No. This is between a man who mistakes humiliation for strength and a woman you were never good enough to keep." A shock ran through the crowd. Ethan's face darkened. "You don't even know her." Roman's expression never changed. "That," he said, "is where you made your first bad assumption tonight." Then he reached for Scarlett's glass, took it carefully from her trembling hand, set it on a passing tray, and stepped closer. And when his fingers lifted her chin, Ethan finally understood he was about to lose her in front of everyone. Scarlett barely felt Roman's fingers under her chin. What she felt was the room folding inward, the chandeliers, the marble, the whisper of silk and money and judgment. Everything narrowed to the space between his body and hers, to the slow, deliberate way he looked at her, as if asking one final, silent question. "Trust me." She should have stepped back. She should have protected the last thin line of control she still owned. Instead, she stayed still. Roman lowered his head and kissed her. It was not frantic, not reckless, not the kind of kiss meant for romance. It was precise, devastating, and public in the cruelest possible way for the man watching. His hand remained light against her jaw, but his mouth claimed the moment with total certainty. Scarlett's breath caught. The world vanished in a flash of heat and shock, and for one impossible second, she forgot Ethan, forgot Chloe, forgot every eye burning into her skin. Then the ballroom came roaring back. Someone gasped. A champagne glass shattered near the edge of the dance floor. Chloe's phone dipped, then lifted again, greed overcoming disbelief. When Roman pulled away, he did not move far. His forehead nearly brushed Scarlett's temple as he spoke low enough for only her to hear. "Don't look at him yet." Her pulse slammed against her throat. Across from them, Ethan looked like a man who had just been skinned alive in a room full of witnesses. The smugness was gone. The polished ease was gone. Even his posture had changed. He stood too stiff, too straight, the way men did when humiliation hit so hard it turned physical. "What the hell was that?" he snapped. Roman turned then, one arm sliding around Scarlett's waist with terrifying calm. He held her like a fact, like a decision already made. "That," Roman said, "was me being polite." A ripple moved through the crowd. Ethan took a step forward. "You think you can just walk in here and take whatever you want?" Roman's eyes went flat. "No. I think I can walk in here and stop lesser men from confusing cruelty with power." Scarlett felt the words land around them like stones. Chloe swallowed hard, still filming, but her expression had changed. This was no longer fun, no longer content. It had become something dangerous, something alive. Ethan laughed once, sharp and ugly. "She's using you." Roman did not even blink. If she were, he said, she'd still have better taste than she showed with you. The room broke into scattered, stunned murmurs, and then Scarlett made the mistake Roman had warned her against. She looked at Ethan, and the hatred in his face told her this kiss had started something far worse than scandal. The private lounge off the ballroom was quiet in the way expensive places tried to be. Thick carpet, low lighting, doors that closed without a sound. It should have felt like relief. It didn't. Scarlett stepped away from Roman the second the door shut behind them. "What the hell was that?" she demanded, her voice low but shaking in her chest. Roman didn't answer immediately. He moved toward the bar instead, pouring a drink with the same controlled precision he had shown in the ballroom. No rush, no apology, just quiet, measured motion. "That," he said finally, "was necessary." Scarlett let out a sharp breath. "You don't get to decide what's necessary for me." He slid the glass across the counter toward her. She didn't touch it. Roman's eyes lifted. "If you had handled him out there, you would have lost your job before midnight." The truth hit like a slap. Scarlett's jaw tightened. "And now what? Now I'm the woman who kisses powerful men to survive?" Roman didn't flinch. "No. Now you're the woman no one in that room will risk humiliating again." The difference landed, heavy and uncomfortable. Scarlett turned away, pressing her fingers briefly to her temple. The adrenaline was crashing now, leaving something colder behind. Fear. Not of Ethan. Not even of the room she had just walked out of. Something bigger. "You said this wasn't just about him," she said, forcing her voice steady. "What does that mean?" Roman reached into his jacket and pulled out a thin folder. He set it on the bar between them. "Open it." Scarlett hesitated, then flipped it open. The first page made her stomach drop. Her name, her email, a transfer authorization she didn't remember sending. $500,000 routed through a donor account tied to tonight's event. "This isn't real," she said immediately. "It is," Roman replied. Her pulse spiked. "I didn't sign this." "No," he said. "But your credentials did." The room tilted slightly. Scarlett flipped through the pages faster now. More transfers, more signatures, a pattern forming, clean enough to pass a surface audit, dirty enough to destroy her if anyone looked deeper. "Ethan," she whispered. Roman watched her carefully. "He's part of it, not the architect." Scarlett's hands went cold. "If this comes out," she said slowly, "I'm not just fired. I'm finished." "Yes." She looked up at him, something breaking open behind her eyes. "Why are you helping me?" Roman didn't hesitate. "Because someone is using you," he said, "to get to me." Silence crashed down between them. Scarlett felt it then, the shift. This wasn't about humiliation anymore, or revenge, or even survival. This was a war she had just been pulled into, and she was standing unarmed in the middle of it. "So tell me," Roman said quietly, "do you want to stay a victim, or help me find who set you up?" Scarlett had learned young that love often arrived disguised as relief. At 17, relief looked like casseroles from neighbors after her father died in a highway pileup outside Queens. At 23, it looked like hospital billing envelopes stacked on the kitchen counter while her mother smiled too brightly and said she was fine. At 28, relief wore a navy suit, an easy smile, and the face of Ethan Cole. Back then, he had seemed like the answer to a prayer she was too tired to say out loud. She had met him at a donor luncheon in Midtown, the kind of polished room where women like Scarlett made miracles happen. and men like Ethan collected credit for noticing them. She had been running on 4 hours of sleep, stale Starbucks, and whatever hope she could squeeze out of the blinking screen of her MacBook Air at 2 in the morning. Her mother's cardiologist wanted another round of treatment. Her younger sister, Nora, had been accepted into graduate school and was pretending not to care whether they could afford it. Scarlett cared enough for all of them. Ethan had noticed that. Not the exhaustion, not the fear. Men like Ethan never called those things by their real names. He noticed usefulness, competence. The quiet kind of woman who fixed disasters without asking for applause. He started small. Coffee delivered to her office just the way she liked it. Late-night texts asking whether she had eaten. A hand at the small of her back when she was too tired to argue with how intimate that felt. He listened when she talked about budgets, staffing crises, donor egos, floral shortages, and family bills. He made being seen feel like safety. That was his first real trick. His second was making help feel like debt. When he covered the deposit on her mother's medication one winter, Scarlett had cried in the parking garage afterward, forehead against the steering wheel of her aging Toyota, because gratitude and shame felt too much alike. Ethan had kissed her that night and told her she never had to carry everything alone again. She had believed him. Now, standing in Roman Blackwell's private lounge with forged transfers in her trembling hands, Scarlett remembered a night from 8 months earlier. Ethan had called after midnight, voice tight, saying he needed one file forwarded before a donor review first thing in the morning. She had been half asleep, barefoot in her apartment kitchen, heating canned soup for her mother. "Just send it from your account," he had said. "Mine is locked out." Scarlett closed the folder. Her pulse turned cold. That was it. That was the night he put the knife in her hand and made sure her fingerprints stayed on the blade. And when she looked up at Roman, she knew her love story with Ethan had never been a romance at all. It had been a setup. By 8:14 the next morning, Scarlett Hayes was no longer an event director with a fragile reputation. She was a liability. The email from her company arrived while she was standing in her apartment kitchen, still wearing last night's makeup and staring at the prescription refill notice beside the sink. Subject line: temporary administrative leave. No accusations, no warmth, just corporate language polished until it almost looked humane. Effective immediately, she was suspended from all active accounts pending internal review. Scarlett read it twice, then a third time. Her coffee went cold in her hand. In the living room, her mother was asleep beneath a blanket on the couch, the morning news playing softly to no one. Scarlett lowered the volume, but not before she caught her own face on the screen, frozen beside Roman Blackwell under a headline that made her stomach twist. Mystery woman caught with Manhattan tycoon after gala drama. Not event director, not producer, not victim, just mystery woman. Her phone buzzed. Another donor had withdrawn from an upcoming fundraiser. Then another message. Her mother's pharmacy reminding her that one medication was no longer eligible for delay. Then Ethan. "I told you last night not to make this worse. We can still fix it if you stop panicking." Scarlett stared at the message until her vision blurred. Not an apology, not even denial, just control. A knock came 40 minutes later. She opened the door expecting a courier and found 2 men in dark coats standing in the hallway with the posture of people who never repeated themselves. Between them sat a black leather document case. "Ms. Hayes," the taller one said, "Mr. Blackwell asked that this be delivered directly to you." Scarlett hesitated, then took the case. Inside was a file so thick it felt like weight made physical. Bank records, phone logs, event seating revisions, donor routing sheets, emails between Ethan and names she didn't recognize. One page had been marked with a silver tab. She opened to it. Victor Kane, Chief Operating Officer, Blackwell Maritime Holdings. A list of private meetings, transfer windows, cross-reference donor activity. Ethan's name appeared 3 times. Scarlett's breath caught. Her phone buzzed again, this time from a blocked number. If you care about your mother, don't go to the police. The fear was instant, total, sickening. A final note lay at the bottom of the case in clean, sharp handwriting. You are being cornered. Stop standing where they can reach you. R.B. Scarlett looked toward the living room, where her mother slept in the pale wash of morning light, defenseless and unaware. Then she grabbed her coat, the file, and her keys. Because for the first time, losing her career was no longer the worst thing that could happen today. Someone had just reached past Scarlett and put their hands on her family. Roman Blackwell's penthouse did not feel like a home. It felt like a decision nobody could reverse. Scarlett followed the silent elevator up 43 floors with the file clutched against her chest, and her nerves stretched so tight they felt metallic. When the doors opened, she stepped into a space of glass, stone, and controlled silence. The Manhattan skyline burned beyond the windows, sharp and distant. Everything inside looked expensive enough to survive fire. Roman was waiting near the bar, jacket off, sleeves rolled once at the forearms. It should have made him look more human. It didn't. "You came," he said. Scarlett dropped the file on the dining table. "Someone threatened my mother. Let's not pretend I had 20 safer options." His face changed by half an inch. That was enough to make the room colder. "Sit," he said. "I'm not here to be managed." "No," Roman replied evenly. "You're here because someone finally stopped treating your fear like exaggeration." The words landed harder than she wanted them to. Before Scarlett could answer, footsteps crossed the hall behind her. She turned. A young woman stood at the edge of the room in a cream sweater and dark jeans, frozen mid-step. She was pretty in a fragile, sharp-eyed way, like someone who had learned to hide panic under good posture. Her gaze fixed on Scarlett's face, widened, then broke open with recognition. "Oh my God," she whispered. "It's you." Scarlett frowned. "Do we know each other?" The woman laughed once, breathless and disbelieving. "Barnes and Noble, Union Square, 3 years ago." She took a step forward. "I was sitting on the floor in the psychology aisle, trying not to pass out. You stayed with me for almost an hour." Memory rose slowly. A girl in a camel coat, shaking hands, smudged mascara. A panic attack so violent she could barely breathe. Scarlett had missed a meeting that day because she couldn't leave her alone. She had bought her water, grounded her through breathing, and handed her a book she thought might help. "Meditations," Scarlett said softly. The woman nodded, eyes shining. "You wrote your number inside the cover and told me not to be embarrassed for surviving a bad day." Scarlett stared. Roman's voice came from behind her, low and steady. "This is Lily." The truth clicked into place like a lock turning. Lily Blackwell. Roman's sister. Scarlett looked from Lily to Roman, then back again. "You knew who I was." Roman held her gaze. "Yes." "How long?" "Since that day." Scarlett's pulse stumbled. "Then why didn't you ever say anything?" For the first time since she'd met him, something almost tired moved through his face. "Because decent women," Roman said quietly, "should never have to meet men like me." And before Scarlett could answer, Caleb entered the room and announced that someone was outside her mother's apartment right now. Scarlett didn't remember crossing the room. 1 second she was standing beside Lily, the past crashing into the present, and the next she was in front of Roman, the word outside echoing in her skull like something physical. "Outside where?" she demanded. Caleb didn't hesitate. "Your mother's building. Third-floor hallway camera picked him up 20 seconds ago. Hoodie, no face yet." Scarlett's stomach dropped so fast it felt like falling. "My mom is alone," she said. Roman was already moving. "Not anymore," he replied. He pulled his phone from his pocket, said one name, and the entire atmosphere shifted. "Ward, lock the building. Nobody in, nobody out. I want eyes on every stairwell and elevator." A pause, then colder. "If he moves toward her door, break him." Scarlett stared at him. There was no panic in his voice, no hesitation, just certainty. The kind that didn't come from hope, the kind that came from control. Lily stepped closer to Scarlett, her voice softer. "He won't let anything happen to her." Scarlett wanted to believe that, but fear didn't listen to logic. Her phone buzzed in her hand. Blocked number. She didn't want to answer. She did anyway. A man's voice, low, almost amused. "You move fast when it's family." Scarlett's breath hitched. "Who is this?" "You're asking the wrong question." A soft chuckle. "The right one is how much you're willing to lose before you understand your place." Her fingers tightened around the phone. "Stay away from my mother." "That depends," he said. "Are you planning to be difficult?" Scarlett looked at Roman. He was watching her, unreadable, waiting. Something inside her snapped into focus. Not fear, not this time. Choice. "You picked the wrong person," she said quietly into the phone. A pause. Then the voice shifted, just slightly. "Curious now." "We'll see." The line went dead. Scarlett lowered the phone slowly. "He wanted me scared," she said. Roman stepped closer, his presence steady, immovable. "Good." Her eyes lifted to his. "Good? It means he needs you to be." The implication settled in. She wasn't just collateral damage. She was leverage. Caleb's phone buzzed. He glanced down, then back up. "He's leaving the building," he said. "Didn't make contact. Probably testing response time." Scarlett exhaled shakily. Roman didn't. "Then we respond faster next time," he said. Scarlett felt the shift again. The line she had been standing on, the one between surviving and fighting, was gone. "You said someone is using me to get to you," she said. Roman nodded once. Scarlett lifted her chin, the last of the hesitation burning away. "Then stop treating me like something to protect." Silence. Roman studied her for a long second. Then finally he gave a single decisive nod. "Fine," he said. "Then we use you to draw him out." Lily inhaled sharply. Scarlett didn't look away. "Tell me what to do." Roman's eyes darkened, something dangerous settling into place. "First," he said, "you stop thinking like a victim and start thinking like bait." By noon, Scarlett Hayes was trending. Not for her work. Not for the years she had spent building flawless events out of impossible demands. But for a kiss. The footage was everywhere. Chloe's video, edited, filtered, captioned, had spread across every platform that mattered. It didn't show Ethan's cruelty. It didn't show Scarlett holding herself together under pressure. It showed Roman Blackwell pulling her close. It showed power choosing her. And the world had already decided what that meant. Gold digger. Opportunist. Another woman trading dignity for proximity to money. Scarlett stared at her reflection in the floor-to-ceiling glass of Roman's penthouse, her phone buzzing non-stop on the marble counter behind her. She's using him. He always goes for women like that. Who even is she? Her name was there, but her story wasn't. Lily hovered near the kitchen island, scrolling, her expression tight. They're tearing you apart. I can see that, Scarlett replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Across the room, Roman stood with Caleb and Audrey, their conversation low and controlled. Numbers, timelines, names Scarlett didn't fully recognize yet. It sounded less like damage control and more like war planning. That should have terrified her. Instead, something else settled in. Clarity. Her phone buzzed again. Ethan, of course. She stared at the name before answering. You really outdid yourself, he said, his tone light, almost amused. Roman Blackwell? That's ambitious, even for you. Scarlett closed her eyes briefly. You forged my credentials. A pause, then a quiet exhale. Careful, Scarlett. Accusations like that can get messy. You used me. No, Ethan corrected smoothly. I used an opportunity. You just happened to be convenient. The words landed like ice water. Scarlett turned slightly, watching Roman in her peripheral vision. He wasn't looking at her, but she knew he was listening. You think he's protecting you? Ethan continued. Men like that don't protect. They own. Scarlett's grip tightened on the phone. And men like you? A soft laugh. We survive. There it was. No apology, no remorse, just truth, stripped clean. Scarlett felt something final break loose inside her. Not pain. Attachment. Then you should start running, she said quietly. Ethan's tone shifted. You don't scare me. Good, Scarlett replied. Because I'm not the one you should be afraid of. She ended the call before he could answer. Silence settled around her. Roman's voice cut through it a moment later. Speaker next time, he said. Scarlett turned to face him fully. Next time I won't need you to hear it. Audrey studied her with new interest. Caleb's expression shifted, just slightly. Roman stepped closer, not touching, but close enough that she felt the weight of his presence. Good, he said. Scarlett lifted her chin, the last trace of hesitation gone. I'm done reacting, she said. Tell me how we make him make a mistake. Roman's eyes darkened. For the first time, there was something almost approving in them. We already have, he said. You just haven't seen it yet. Scarlett didn't expect the next move to come from Roman. She expected strategy, plans, orders. Instead, he disappeared for exactly 11 minutes. When he returned, the entire structure of her world shifted. Your mother and sister are being relocated, Roman said as he walked back into the penthouse, already removing his gloves. Effective now. Scarlett straightened instantly. You don't get to make that decision without me. I already did. The calm in his voice snapped something sharp in her chest. That's not protection, she said. That's control. Roman stopped in front of her, close enough that she could see the faint scar along his jawline, the one most people missed. It's survival, he corrected. Scarlett shook her head. You don't know my family. You don't get to move them like pieces on a board. Roman's gaze didn't shift. Your family is already on the board. Silence hit hard. Scarlett opened her mouth, then closed it again, because he wasn't wrong. Caleb stepped forward, holding out a tablet. Live feed, he said. Scarlett hesitated, then took it. The screen showed her mother's building, the hallway camera. 2 men now, not one. one standing near the stairwell, the other pretending to scroll through his phone outside her mother's door, waiting, watching. Her stomach twisted. "They came back," she said quietly. Roman nodded once. Because the first time was a test. Scarlett's grip tightened around the tablet. "And this time?" "This time," Roman said, "they're checking how far they can push." On the screen, the man outside the door shifted, glancing toward the hallway camera like he knew it was there. Scarlett's breath caught. "Do something," she said. Roman didn't move. For one terrifying second, she thought he wouldn't. Then he reached for his phone again. "Ward," he said, voice low and final. "Take the building." Scarlett blinked. "Take the... What does that mean?" Caleb answered without looking at her. "It means nobody in that hallway finishes the next 5 minutes standing." The words landed heavy. On the screen, everything changed at once. A door at the end of the hallway opened, then another. Men Scarlett had never seen stepped out, silent, precise, moving with purpose. The two watchers didn't even have time to react before they were pinned, disarmed, and dragged out of frame. No shouting, no chaos, just execution. Scarlett stared, breath shallow. Roman ended the call like it was nothing. "They won't come back there again," he said. Scarlett lowered the tablet slowly, her pulse uneven. "You planned that," she realized. Roman's eyes held hers. "I prepare for patterns." Fear flickered through her, sharp, undeniable. But beneath it, something else rose. Safety. Not soft, not gentle. Absolute. Scarlett exhaled, the fight in her voice quieter now, but not gone. "Next time," she said, "you tell me before you move my family." Roman considered that, then gave a single nod. "Next time," he agreed. Scarlett met his gaze, steady again. "Good," she said, "because I'm not standing behind you in this." Roman's expression shifted, just barely. Not resistance, recognition. "You won't," he said. "You'll be standing where they can see you." Scarlett had never chosen to be dangerous before. She had chosen responsible, careful, necessary. Now she stood in the center of Roman Blackwell's penthouse. The city spread beneath her like something fragile and distant, and realized that careful had nearly gotten her destroyed. "Say it again," Audrey said, her voice precise. Scarlett didn't look away from the skyline. "I'm not going to the police." Audrey studied her for a long second, then nodded once. "Good. Because if you walk into a federal office right now, you won't be a witness. You'll be the headline." Scarlett let that settle. "I didn't sign those transfers," she said. "No," Audrey replied. "But your access did. And that's all anyone needs to start building a case." Caleb leaned against the far wall, arms crossed. "They want you scared enough to confess to something you don't understand." Scarlett turned back to them. "I understand enough. Ethan needed a clean name. Victor needed a clean channel. I was both." Roman, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "They also needed someone predictable." Scarlett's eyes flicked to him. "Predictable how?" "You don't run," he said. "You fix. You absorb damage until it stops spreading." The truth hit clean. Scarlett exhaled slowly. Not anymore. Something shifted in the room. Roman stepped closer, just enough to make the space feel smaller. "Then we stop reacting." Scarlett crossed her arms. "And start what?" "Hunting," Caleb said. The word landed heavier than anything else. Audrey slid a tablet across the table. "We create pressure," she said. public, controlled, targeted, you make yourself visible again. Scarlett frowned. You want me out there? After everything? Yes, Roman said. Because right now they think you're cornered. Scarlett's pulse picked up. And if I step out, they move. Exactly. She considered that. Risk against risk. Fear against control. Scarlett nodded once. Fine. Then we don't just step out. We make sure they can't ignore it. Audrey's lips curved slightly. I was hoping you'd say that. Caleb pushed off the wall. There's a private donor lunch tomorrow on 5th Avenue. Small, high-profile, controlled guest list. Scarlett's mind was already moving. Seating charts, entry points, timing. Ethan will be there, she said. Roman's gaze locked onto hers. Yes. Scarlett felt the edge of something new settle into place inside her. Not panic, strategy. Then I'll be there too, she said, but not as damage control. Roman tilted his head slightly. As what? Scarlett met his eyes without flinching. As the mistake they don't realize they already made. Silence followed, not doubt, recognition. Roman's expression shifted, something darker, sharper settling in. Approval. Good, he said quietly. Because tomorrow, we make him choose between saving himself and exposing everything. The restaurant on 5th Avenue was designed for people who never checked prices. Glass walls, white marble tables, quiet conversations wrapped in money and discretion. Scarlett stepped inside at exactly 12:07 p.m., her heels precise against the floor, her posture controlled, her pulse anything but. Heads turned, not dramatically, not openly, but enough. They recognized her, not from her work, from the video. Scarlett felt it in the way conversations softened, in the way eyes lingered a second too long before pretending not to look. She didn't rush. She didn't shrink. She walked like she still belonged. Because today, she did. Across the room, Ethan Cole was already seated. Navy suit, perfect posture, controlled expression. But Scarlett saw it, the flicker. Surprise. He hadn't expected her to show up. Good. Chloe sat beside him, phone in hand, already half lifted. Her lips curved when she spotted Scarlett, like she'd just been handed new content. Scarlett reached their table without breaking stride. Scarlett, Ethan said, rising halfway, confusion slipping through his composure. I didn't think you'd disappear, she finished, her voice calm. That would have been easier for you, wouldn't it? Chloe smirked. This is bold. Scarlett turned to her, steady. You should keep filming. You've been useful so far. Chloe blinked. Just once. Ethan's jaw tightened. What do you want? Scarlett didn't sit. Not yet. She placed her phone on the table, screen down, deliberate. I want clarity, she said, about the transfers. The word landed like a blade. Ethan's eyes flicked just briefly toward Chloe. Mistake. Scarlett saw it. I don't know what you're talking about, he said smoothly. Scarlett leaned in slightly, lowering her voice just enough that only their table could hear. Say that again, she said, and I'll play the recording of you admitting you used my credentials. Silence. Chloe's smile faltered. Ethan didn't speak. Scarlett straightened slowly, letting the moment stretch. Pressure. That was what Roman meant. Create it, hold it, let them break under it. You're making a mistake, Ethan said finally, quieter now. Scarlett shook her head. No, I made one when I trusted you. Her phone buzzed once against the table. She didn't look at it. She didn't need to. She knew Roman was watching. Ethan leaned forward, his voice dropping. You think he's going to protect you from everything? Scarlett met his gaze, unflinching. No, she said. I think you're about to protect me from him. Confusion flickered, then calculation, then something sharper, fear. Scarlett saw it happen in real time. Ethan's control slipped. Not completely, but enough. Enough to matter. She picked up her phone, stepping back from the table. This is your moment, she said quietly. Fix it, or I let it burn. She turned to leave, didn't wait, didn't look back. Behind her, silence spread across the table like a crack in glass, and for the first time, Ethan wasn't in control of the story anymore, because the next move he made would either save him or expose everything he had tried to bury. Scarlett knew something was wrong before she even reached the hospital. It wasn't a message. It wasn't a call. It was silence. The kind that pressed in too tight. She stepped out of the elevator onto the 3rd floor, her heels echoing against polished tile, her pulse already climbing. The hallway smelled faintly of antiseptic and something colder. Absence. Too quiet. Her mother's door was at the end, half open. Scarlett stopped. Every instinct in her body screamed. Don't go in. She went anyway. Mom? Her voice came out thin. No answer. The room looked untouched at first glance. Bed made, monitor steady, IV line intact. But something was off. The chair beside the bed, empty. Her mother's purse, gone. Scarlett's breath shortened. Then she saw it. A phone. Not hers. Sitting on the tray table like it had been placed there with intention. Waiting. Her stomach dropped as she stepped closer. It started ringing the second she reached for it. Scarlett froze, then answered. A familiar voice slid through the speaker, smooth and controlled. Right on time. Scarlett's grip tightened. Victor. A soft chuckle. I was wondering how long it would take you to say my name out loud. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Where is she? Safe, he said. For now. Scarlett closed her eyes for 1 second. Just one. Don't lie to me. I don't lie, Victor replied calmly. I reframe reality. The words made her skin crawl. What do you want? She demanded. There was a pause. Then, you. Scarlett's eyes snapped open. Behind her, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Too late. She turned just as the door shut. A man she didn't recognize stepped inside, tall, broad, expression empty. Another followed behind him, locking the door with a quiet click. No panic, no rush. Professional. Scarlett backed up slowly, her hand tightening around the phone. You could have stayed quiet, Victor's voice continued softly in her ear. You could have let Ethan take the fall. But no. You had to become visible. The man in front of her took a step closer. Scarlett's mind raced. Distance, objects, exit, none. You made yourself important, Victor said. Now you get to be useful. The second man reached for her arm. Scarlett twisted fast, but he caught her anyway, fingers like steel locking around her wrist. Pain shot up her arm. Let me go, she snapped, kicking hard, catching the first man off guard for half a second. Not enough. A needle flashed. Cold panic exploded through her chest. No. The sting hit her neck before she could finish. Everything tilted. The room blurred. Her knees buckled. Victor's voice softened, almost gentle now. Tell Roman, he said, that this is what happens when he forgets his own rules. Scarlett fought it. Fought the darkness dragging her down. Fought the weakness flooding her limbs. But it was too fast, too clean, too planned. The last thing she saw was the hospital ceiling sliding sideways. The last thing she felt, Was the phone slipping from her fingers? And the last thought that burned through her fading consciousness was not fear, but the realization that she had just become the weapon meant to break Roman Blackwell. Scarlett woke to cold, not the soft chill of air conditioning or the distant hum of a hospital system. This was sharper, intentional, concrete beneath her back, metal somewhere close. The faint, rhythmic drip of water echoing through a space too large to feel safe. She didn't move at first. Her body felt wrong, heavy, slower than it should be. Drugged. Good. That meant she wasn't dead. Yet. Scarlett opened her eyes. The ceiling above her was unfinished, exposed beams, industrial piping, dim yellow lights flickering just enough to make everything feel unstable. A warehouse, or something close to it. Her hands weren't tied. That was worse. It meant they didn't think she could fight. Scarlett pushed herself up slowly, ignoring the dizziness that hit immediately. The room spun once, then steadied just enough for her to take in her surroundings. Wide space, concrete floor, one visible exit, 2 men near the far wall, armed, watching. She exhaled through her nose, steadying herself. Think, not panic. Think. A slow clap echoed from the shadows. Scarlett's head snapped toward the sound. Victor Kane stepped forward, immaculate as ever, his dark coat untouched by the dirt and decay around him. He looked like he belonged in a boardroom, not a place like this. "That was faster than I expected," he said calmly. Scarlett forced her voice steady. "Where is my mother?" Victor tilted his head slightly, as if considering whether the question deserved an answer. "Alive," he said. "For now." Scarlett's jaw tightened. "What do you want?" Victor smiled faintly. "Clarity." She almost laughed. "You kidnapped me for clarity." "No," he corrected. "I removed a variable that had become unpredictable." The words hit colder than the room. Scarlett pushed herself to her feet, her balance shaky but holding. "You're not as smart as you think." Victor's expression didn't change. "No?" he asked. "You think this scares Roman?" she said. "You think he doesn't already know?" Victor studied her, something faintly curious flickering behind his eyes. "That's the interesting part," he said softly. "He does know." Scarlett's pulse skipped. "And he still let you walk into this," Victor continued, "which means one of 2 things." He took a step closer. "Either he's losing control," another step, "or he's willing to let you suffer to protect something bigger." Scarlett held her ground. "You don't understand him," she said. Victor stopped just within reach, his gaze sharp now. "Oh, I understand Roman perfectly," he replied. "I built half of what he controls." Silence stretched between them. Then Victor's voice dropped, colder than before. "He had one rule," he said. "No attachments, no weaknesses." Scarlett didn't look away. Victor smiled. "And then he met you." The implication settled like a blade sliding into place. Scarlett's heart pounded, but not from fear, from realization. She wasn't just leverage. She was the fracture point. Victor turned slightly, gesturing toward the guards. "We'll give him time," he said. "Let him decide what matters more." Scarlett's hands curled at her sides. "You're wrong," she said quietly. Victor glanced back. Scarlett's eyes burned steady. "He already decided." Victor's smile faded, just a fraction, and for the first time, doubt flickered, because somewhere out there, Roman Blackwell was already moving. Scarlett didn't wait for fear to catch up. The moment Victor turned his back, she moved, not visibly, not recklessly, but internally. She forced her breathing to slow, her pulse to steady, her mind to detach from the fact that she was standing in a warehouse with two armed men and no clear exit. Panic would get her killed. Precision might not. She scanned the room again, slower this time. The flickering light above, the uneven rhythm of the water drip, the guards, one near the door, one closer to the center, both watching but not expecting resistance. That was their first mistake. Victor believed control meant certainty. Scarlett knew better. Control had cracks. You just had to find them. She shifted her weight slightly, testing her balance. The drug still lingered in her system, dulling her reflexes, but not enough to make her useless. Her right hand brushed the edge of a metal crate behind her. Cold, solid, movable. Good. Comfortable? Victor asked without turning around. Scarlett didn't answer. She took one slow step sideways, then another. The guard nearest her tracked the movement, but lazily, unconcerned. Second mistake. Scarlett's fingers tightened around the edge of the crate. Timing, distance, impact. She moved fast, faster than they expected. The crate tipped hard into the closer guard's legs, knocking him off balance just long enough for Scarlett to pivot, driving her elbow into his throat. He choked, stumbling back, gun slipping from his grip. Scarlett didn't hesitate. She grabbed it, turned. The second guard was already moving, too fast. A hand slammed into her wrist, twisting. Pain shot up her arm. The gun clattered across the floor. Scarlett gasped, trying to wrench free, but his grip tightened, dragging her back. Enough, Victor said calmly. Everything stopped. The guard released her just enough to force her upright again. Scarlett's chest heaved, adrenaline burning through the last of the drug in her system. Victor turned slowly, studying her now with something new in his expression. Not irritation, interest. "I was wondering when you'd try that," he said. Scarlett glared at him. "You should have wondered harder." One corner of his mouth lifted. "Brave," he said, "but not effective." Scarlett's voice cut sharp. "You're not as in control as you think." Victor stepped closer again, eyes narrowing slightly. "No," he said quietly, "but neither are you." Scarlett held his gaze, didn't flinch, didn't look away, because losing control wasn't the same as losing the game, and she wasn't done yet. Somewhere beyond these walls, Roman was already moving. She could feel it like pressure in the air, like something inevitable building just out of sight. Victor studied her for one long second more, then gave a small, almost amused exhale. "Good," he said. "Fight. It'll make this more interesting." Scarlett's pulse steadied, her mind sharpened, because now she understood something critical. Victor didn't want her broken, not yet. He wanted her aware enough to understand exactly what was coming. And that meant she still had time, just not much of it. Roman Blackwell did not rush. That was the first thing Caleb noticed. Not when the call came in. Not when the location ping hit. Not even when the warehouse coordinates locked into place on the screen. Roman didn't move faster. He moved sharper. "Brooklyn Dock Sector 9, Caleb said, eyes scanning the tablet. "Signal bounced twice before stabilizing. That means they're cycling locations or masking entry points." Roman adjusted his cuff slowly, his expression unreadable. "How many?" he asked. "Minimum 3, Caleb replied. "Possibly more inside." Roman nodded once. "Shut down the east corridor," he said. "No incoming or outgoing shipments for the next 20 minutes. Caleb hesitated. "That's going to cost—" "I didn't ask for the number." Silence. Then Caleb moved. Orders went out fast. Not loud, not chaotic, efficient. Within seconds, an entire section of the port shifted without a single visible ripple. Trucks stopped mid-route. Containers held in place. Routes froze. Control. Absolute. Roman stepped toward the window, looking out over the skyline like it belonged to him. "They took her alive," he said. Caleb glanced up. "How do you know?" Roman didn't turn. If Victor wanted her dead, she'd already be gone. That settled it. This wasn't cleanup. This was leverage. Caleb moved closer. "You want extraction or containment?" Roman's reflection in the glass didn't change. "Both." Another pause. "Victor's expecting you to come in loud," Caleb added. "Make a mistake." Roman finally turned, and that's where he's wrong. Caleb's jaw tightened. "What's the plan?" Roman picked up his coat. "We don't walk into the trap," he said. "We close it." Caleb exhaled slowly. "That's going to burn everything tied to that sector." Roman's gaze went cold. "Then let it burn." The words landed like a verdict. Across the room, Audrey stepped forward, tablet in hand. "Federal channels are already picking up irregular movement," she warned. "If you escalate, you're going to draw attention." Roman didn't even look at her. "Good," he said. Audrey stilled. "You want them watching?" "I want everyone watching," Roman replied. "Because when this ends, there won't be a version of this story anyone else gets to rewrite." Caleb's phone buzzed. He checked it, then looked up. Movement confirmed. They're shifting her deeper into the dock line. Roman's eyes sharpened. Then we're out of time. He stepped toward the elevator, every movement deliberate. Final. Caleb fell in beside him. "You're breaking your own rule," Caleb said quietly. Roman pressed the button. The doors slid open. For a brief second, the reflection of the man in the steel doors didn't look like a CEO. It looked like something far more dangerous. "I already did," Roman said. They stepped inside. The doors closed, and somewhere in a warehouse carved out of steel and shadow, Scarlett Hayes was running out of time. Because this wasn't just a rescue anymore. It was a declaration of war. "Hai fa trien kich bon fan muoi bei choju bon tram tu, jam bao viet jung bon tram tu chicho su se dish nam muoi tu ban kin ho jiu nai, nho jam bao kich ban kau truk trio view, viet bang tieng an." My Scarlett heard the shift before she saw it. A change in the air. Subtle, controlled, but real. Victor felt it too. His head tilted slightly, eyes narrowing just enough to betray awareness. "He's close," he said quietly. Scarlett didn't react, but her pulse did. Fast, sharp, alive. One of the guards moved toward the entrance, hand near his weapon. Another adjusted his stance, tension replacing boredom. The warehouse, which had felt stagnant and contained, suddenly felt like something holding its breath. Waiting. Victor turned back to Scarlett, studying her face like he expected to find fear there. Instead, he found something else. Recognition. "You can feel it," he said. Scarlett held his gaze. "So can you." For the first time, Victor didn't smile. A distant sound cut through the silence. Not loud, not obvious, but wrong. Metal shifting where it shouldn't. A door somewhere beyond the visible exit opening without permission. The guard nearest the entrance stiffened. "We've got movement!" The lights flickered once, then steadied. Victor didn't look away from Scarlett. "He won't come in blind," he said. "He'll—" The door slammed open. Not kicked, not forced. Opened, like whoever stood on the other side had every right to be there. Roman Blackwell stepped inside. No rush, no chaos, just presence. Behind him, Caleb and two others spread out, controlled, precise, sealing exits without a word. No shouting, no panic, just quiet domination. The guard closest to Scarlett reached for his weapon. Caleb moved first, one step, one strike. The gun hit the ground before it could even clear the man's grip. The second guard froze. Not from fear, from understanding. They were already too late. Victor exhaled slowly, almost impressed. "I was hoping you'd be smarter than this," he said. Roman stopped 10 feet away. Not closer, not yet. His eyes moved once, over Scarlett, checking, counting, alive, then back to Victor. "You miscalculated," Roman said. Victor's expression sharpened. "Did I?" Roman didn't answer immediately. He stepped forward once. The room shifted with him, not physically, gravitationally. "You thought I'd hesitate," Roman said. "You thought I'd protect the system before the person." Victor's jaw tightened. Scarlett watched it happen, the moment the control cracked, just slightly. Roman took another step. "Now you're standing in the middle of a decision you don't control anymore." Silence pressed in. Victor's hand twitched. Scarlett saw it. So did Roman. Everything balanced on that single, fragile second. Choice. Action. Irreversible. Victor smiled again, but this time it didn't reach his eyes. "Then let's see how far you're willing to go," he said. And in that instant, everything broke. Because the next move wouldn't be about power. It would be about who was willing to lose everything to win. It didn't explode. It collapsed. That was the difference. Victor moved first, fast, sharp, controlled. His hand snapped toward the guard nearest Scarlett, not for protection, but for the gun already slipping across the concrete floor. But Roman had already planned for that. "Down," he said. Scarlett didn't hesitate. She dropped. The first shot cracked through the warehouse like thunder, but it didn't come from Victor's side. Caleb, precise. The bullet tore through the guard's shoulder just as he reached for the weapon, sending him crashing back with a strangled shout. The second guard lunged forward, but Roman's men were already moving, cutting angles, closing distance, eliminating space. No chaos, just efficiency. Victor stepped back, eyes sharp, recalculating in real time. "You're burning everything for her," he said, voice cutting through the noise. Roman didn't answer. He moved, fast, faster than Scarlett expected. One step. Two. Then he was there, between her and Victor. A wall of controlled violence. His hand closed around her arm, pulling her behind him without looking back. Alive. That was all that mattered. Another shot rang out. Concrete splintered near Victor's feet as Caleb advanced, forcing him further into the open. "You're out of exits," Caleb said. Victor's gaze flicked once toward the far side of the warehouse. Calculation, still searching, still refusing to lose. Roman saw it. Of course he did. "You built this," Roman said quietly. "Every route, every escape." Victor's jaw tightened. Roman stepped closer, slow now, deliberate. "And I closed all of them." Silence fell. Heavy. Final. Victor let out a breath, almost a laugh. "You think this ends here?" Roman's eyes went cold. "It already has." Behind them, footsteps echoed. Audrey's team moving in, not with guns, but with something far more dangerous. Evidence, files, drives, documentation. Victor saw it, really saw it. For the first time, something real cracked through his control. "You involved them," he said. Roman didn't blink. "I made sure there's no version of this where you walk away." Victor's shoulders dropped just slightly. Not surrender, understanding. Ethan stumbled into view from the far side, dragged forward by one of Roman's men, face pale, hands shaking. "I told them everything," he stammered. "I didn't have a choice." Victor turned his head slowly. Disgust, cold, absolute. "You never did," he said. Scarlett watched it all from behind Roman, her pulse still racing, but her mind clear. This wasn't a fight anymore. It was judgment. Victor looked back at Roman one last time, then at Scarlett. Something unreadable passed through his eyes. "You were the fracture," he said quietly. Scarlett didn't look away. "No," she replied. "You were." Victor smiled once, thin, resigned, and then he stopped fighting. Because in that moment, he realized he hadn't been outplayed by Roman. He had been exposed by Scarlett. The sirens didn't come immediately. That was the first sign Roman Blackwell had controlled the ending. By the time federal vehicles finally cut through the Brooklyn dock line, everything that mattered was already decided. Victor Kane stood in the center of the warehouse, no longer resisting, no longer calculating. The man who had once controlled half of Roman's operations now looked like what he truly was, someone who had mistaken access for power. Audrey stepped forward, heels sharp against concrete, a thin folder in her hand. "Victor Kane," she said evenly, "you're being formally tied to financial fraud, racketeering, conspiracy, and multiple counts of organized criminal coordination." Victor didn't react. He didn't look at her. His gaze stayed on Roman. "You built this empire with me," he said quietly, "and now you hand me over?" Roman's expression didn't shift. "I built it," he replied. "You corrupted it." The words landed like a final verdict. Victor exhaled slowly, something hollow settling into his posture. Not defeat. Finality. Behind him, Ethan broke first. "I can cooperate," he blurted, his voice cracking. "I already gave statements. I told them everything Victor planned, everything he made me do." Roman didn't even look at him. Caleb did. And that was worse. "You weren't made to do anything," Caleb said coldly. "You just thought you'd survive it." Ethan's face collapsed under the truth. Across the warehouse, Chloe stood frozen near the entrance, her phone still in her hand, but no longer recording. For once, there was no angle to play, no story to spin. The camera she had used to build herself had become useless in the face of reality. Scarlett stepped out from behind Roman, slowly, steadily. Every eye in the room shifted to her, not as a victim, not anymore. Victor watched her approach, something dark and almost thoughtful in his expression. "You changed the equation," he said. Scarlett stopped a few feet away. "No," she answered calmly. "I just refused to stay inside the one you built." Silence. Then Victor gave a faint, humorless smile. "That's worse," he said. Scarlett didn't respond. She didn't need to. Because everything he had tried to turn her into, scapegoat, leverage, weakness, had collapsed under its own weight. Federal agents finally entered, sharp, controlled, moving with authority. Victor didn't resist when they took him. Ethan didn't speak again when they pulled him away. Chloe lowered her phone. And for the first time since the gala, Scarlett felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel. Relief. Not complete. Not soft. But real. Roman stepped beside her, not touching, but close enough that she felt the shift. "You're clear," Audrey said. "Your name is out of everything." Scarlett exhaled slowly. Months of pressure. Gone. But she didn't look at the agents, or the wreckage. She looked at Roman, and for the first time, there was no chaos between them. No strategy, No survival, just truth, and the quiet realization that everything she had lost had just been replaced with something far more dangerous: freedom. 6 months later, Manhattan looked different from Scarlett Hayes' office window. Not because the skyline had changed, because she had. The new brass plaque beside the frosted glass door read, "Hayes and Hart Private Events." Clean lettering, clean money, clean ownership. The kind of success nobody could take from her, because every inch of it had been built with open eyes and steady hands. Inside, sunlight spilled across cream walls, polished oak, and a long table scattered with floral samples, donor packets, and seating drafts for the launch event of her new foundation for women recovering from financial abuse. Her mother's medication was paid for through the end of the year. Nora was back in school. Ethan Cole was facing sentencing. Victor Kane had vanished into the slow, merciless machinery of federal prosecution. Chloe Bennett had learned the hard way that public humiliation was only entertaining until it came home wearing your own face. Scarlett stood at the center of her office in a navy silk dress, reviewing notes on her iPad, when Audrey stepped in with the smallest hint of a smile. "Your final donor just confirmed," she said. "You've officially overbooked the room." Scarlett laughed softly. "That's a problem I know how to solve." Audrey studied her for a beat. "You know, 6 months ago, you were walking into a trap." Scarlett glanced toward the window. "6 months ago, I thought surviving was the goal. And now?" Scarlett closed the folder in her hand. "Now I want more than survival." Audrey's gaze shifted past her shoulder. "Then you should turn around." Scarlett did. Roman Blackwell stood in the doorway. No bodyguards in sight. No tension in the room. Just Roman in a black suit, tie loosened slightly, watching her with that same impossible stillness that had once terrified her and now only made her pulse turn warm. He crossed the room slowly, stopping just in front of her desk. "I'm late," he said. "4 minutes," Scarlett replied. Roman reached into his coat pocket and placed a small velvet box beside her event folder. The room went silent. Scarlett looked at the box, then at him. His voice stayed low, steady, real. "I'm not offering rescue," he said. "I'm offering a life where no one gets to reduce you again. Not because you need me to stop them. Because I want to stand beside the woman who already knows how to stop them herself." Scarlett felt her throat tighten, not from shock, from the sheer rightness of it. Roman opened the box, a ring, elegant, understated, certain. For 1 second, the whole city seemed to hold its breath. Then Scarlett smiled, stepped closer, and said the only answer that had ever been possible. "Yes." And when Roman kissed her this time, it wasn't to prove anything to the world. It was because, at last, the world had failed to break them. And somewhere far behind them, every person who had tried to destroy Scarlett Hayes was forced to live with the one punishment they deserved most: watching her be loved, respected, and impossible to ruin. This story is a work of fiction created for entertainment and storytelling purposes only. All characters, events, and situations are entirely imagined and do not represent real individuals, organizations, or actual incidents. While the narrative includes themes related to power, relationships, and personal growth, it is not intended to promote or glorify harmful behavior. Instead, it focuses on resilience, self-worth, and the importance of making strong, independent choices in difficult situations. Any resemblance to real people or events is purely coincidental. The goal of this content is to inspire emotional reflection and provide an engaging dramatic experience for viewers.